Hi there, and welcome to the latest brain food from the Business Brain.
Hi, and welcome to your Brain Food. My name's Oliver Thompson, and I'm your coach. Strategies. How to deal with negative people. The Peaceful Warrior once said, "The people who are the hardest to love are the ones who need it the most." And in business, how is that? You must have dealt with negative people before, right? If you have, you know that the experience can be quite a downer. I used to have an ex-colleague who was very negative. In our conversations, she would complain endlessly about her co-workers, her work, her life, and she was also very cynical about people in general, often doubting their intentions, and talking to her wasn't a pleasant experience at all. I remember the first time we had a meeting. I must admit I felt very drained. Even though we talked about 20 minutes, I didn't have the mood or energy to do anything, especially after the conversation. It kind of felt as if someone had sucked the life out of me, and it wasn't until about 2 or 3 hours later that the effects wore off. The same few things happened every time we talked. She was just so pessimistic. Her negative energy often spilled over into the conversation and left me with a bad taste in my mouth, especially for a period of time which was quite hard to shift. It was quite bothering, and I would try and avoid speaking to her if I could. Now, as a manager, that's not great. So after a while, I figured I need to work out an action plan to deal with negative people. After all, she was going to be part of my life, my business life. After a while, I figured out a strategy, a plan of action, a way of dealing with this negative person. I used NLP and all the techniques that I've kind of learned and accumulated over my time. I thought, well, for every negative person I face now, there are probably thousands of them out there who I'll meet one day. So if I learn how to deal with her, and deal with her effectively, I'll be able to handle other negative people next time. So with this in mind, I brainstormed the best approach to handle this person. Eventually, I created 7 strategies for dealing with negative people using NLP techniques, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence. These steps have proven very helpful in making the best out of my relationships with these types of people, and I want to share those with you today. If there's someone negative in your life at the moment, don't let yourself be affected by him or her. You're not alone in this problem. I face negative people often, and dealing with them is always a learning experience. While people can try and let you down and get you down, you've got a choice in how you react to them. So, let's look at these 7 tips. Tip number 1. Just don't engage in their negativity. One thing I have found is that negative people tend to harp on about the bad things and ignore the positive stuff. They also have a tendency to exaggerate issues they're facing, making them, a lot worse to deal with, and actually making the predicament that they see actually worse than it really is. The first time you converse with a negative individual, provide a listening ear and offer help if needed. Provide support. Let him or her know that she or he is not alone. However, be sure to draw a line somewhere. If the person keeps harping on about the same problems, even after the first few conversations, then it's a sign of disengagement. For starters, try to switch topics. If they go into a negative swirl, let them continue, but don't engage in the negativity. Give a simple reply such as, "Okay, yeah. Sure, I see." Whereas, if they're being positive, reply in affirmations and enthusiasm. When you do it often enough, they'll soon realise what's going on and start to produce more positive communication. Tip number 2. Try and hang out in groups. Speaking to a negative person can be extremely draining, as we discussed. When I speak to a negative co-worker, client or colleague, I would mentally be drained for several hours afterwards, even though I only talked for literally 20 minutes. That's because I was on the receiving end of all that negativity. To address this, have someone else around when conversing with negative individuals. In fact, the more people, the better. This way, the negative energy is divided between you and the members, and you don't have to bear the full brunt of the negative energy. Don't forget, we pass energy between ourselves. The more people, the less energy is passed just to you, and it's shared. Tip 3. Objectify the comments made. So what do I mean by this? Well, negative people can be quite critical at times. They tend to drop insensitive comments that are hurtful, especially if they're directed at you. For example, I once had a friend who was quite tactless. She would drop jarring comments, which were often dismissive and critical. Initially, I was bothered by their words, wondering why she would be so critical every time that we spoke. I also wondered if there's something wrong with me, that perhaps I wasn't good enough. However, when I observed her interactions with other common friends, I realised that she actually did this with them too. Her comment wasn't really personal attacks. It was just her being the way she was. Recognise that negative people usually mean no harm. They're just caught up in their own negativity. And start by learning to deal with critical comments differently. Objectify the comments made rather than take their words personally. Recognise they're just offering a point of view and sieve out the underlying message and see if there's anything else you can learn from what they've said. It can actually be quite useful. Tip 4. Go with lighter topics. Some negative people are triggered by certain topics. You'll notice this. Family, money, health, work. For example, one of my friends turned into a self-victimizer whenever they talked about work. No matter what I said, they kept complaining about everything in their job. It became quite a drain. If the person is deeply entrenched in this negativity, the unhappiness may be too deeply rooted to address in one single conversation. So bring it to a new topic, lighten the mood. Simply talk about movies or daily occurrences, friends, hobbies, interesting news. Make a light conversation. Keep it to the areas the person actually feels positive towards and lead them towards that and away from the negativity. It soon can't last for too long. Tip 5. Be mindful of the time you actually spend with them. As Jim Rohn puts it, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that quote actually means that who you spend time with has an impact on the person you eventually become. This is very true. Think about the times you hang out with negative people. Do you feel more positive or negative after their experience? Spend more time with positive people. Think about how you feel after spending that time with them. Whenever I encounter a negative person, I'd often feel negative after that, like a bad aftertaste. Whereas with positive people, I generally feel upbeat and exuberant. Clearly there's a spillover effect that takes place even after every interaction. So by spending more time with negative people, your thoughts and emotions will slowly become negative too. Now at first this will become temporary, but over time it may slowly erode into your psyche and become ingrained into you. If you feel certain people in your life are negative, then be conscious of how much time you spend with them. Reduce it, be clear about it, limit your phone calls, set a time limit to how long you want to spend with them. Tip 6. Identify areas where you can make a positive change. Negative people are negative because they lack love, positivity and warmth. A lot of times, the negative behaviour is a barrier that's erected to protect themselves from the world itself. One of the best ways you can help a negative individual is to usher positivity into their lives. Think about what's bothering that person at the moment, and think about how you can help them in your own way. Nothing elaborate. You don't have to definitely go out of your way and help them if you don't want to, but the key here is to be sincere in your desire to help, and show them the upsides in life. A while back, I had a friend who was unhappy with her job. She didn't even see a job opportunity that arose within her workplace, so I introduced her to that opportunity. She eventually got that new job, and she's been working in that position now for over 3 years, and is doing very well. But because she was so negative, she did not notice it. Today, she's a lot happier, looking forward and being proactive to life. She's definitely a lot more positive in who she is, her role and the company itself, especially compared to a few years ago. Now, I don't take credit for that. She's carved out a career for herself, but I do feel happy knowing that in a small way I help them. Take a look at small steps that you can help your friends and colleagues and clients. Just a small act on your part could make a huge difference in their lives. And finally, tip number 7. It might sound harsh, but drop them from your life. If all else fails, reduce contact with them altogether and drop them from your life. Rather than spend your time with negative people, focus on all the positive people in your life instead. In the past, I spent a lot of time with negative people, trying to get them to solve their issues, talk about their complaints and their challenges. It drained a lot of my energy and was often futile, which led to me rethinking my methods, and ever since I've worked on cultivating positivity by hanging out with positive friends and business partners. And this has turned out to be a lot more rewarding and fruitful. Remember, your life is yours to lead, and it's up to you on how you want it to be. If there are negative people who make you feel bad about yourself, work on those issues with the 7 steps above, and with the right actions you can create a dramatic difference in what you get out of your relationships. Don't forget, you spend the majority of your time at work, and if you spend most of that time with negative people, you'll start to feel negative about your workplace, your company, and the people who reside there. Change it. You can do it. Thanks for listening.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that podcast. To hear more, just simply follow our YouTube channel. Alternatively, to find out more about the Business Brain program, why not visit our website at www.the-business-brain.com. We'll see you soon.